Welcome back, my name is Sam, and in today's video we are going to talk about the secret weapon that has made Mercedes completely untouchable in 2026 and why the FIA is stepping in to take it away. We are going to break down the engine loophole that had Ferrari, Honda and Audi writing secret letters of complaint, how Mercedes used basic physics to outsmart the entire grid, and why the upcoming Monaco Grand Prix could be the moment this championship finally gets interesting. Let's get into it. If you have watched any of the first 5 races of the 2026 Formula 1 season, you know the story. Mercedes has been absolutely dominant. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli have won every single Grand Prix so far. The only race they did not win was the sprint in Miami, which went to Lando Norris. In qualifying, the gap has been staggering. In Australia, they were 0.8 of a second clear of the field. On average across the season, they have a qualifying advantage of more than half a second, and a race pace advantage of about the same. When one team is that far ahead under a brand new set of regulations, the rest of the paddock does not just sit back and applaud. They start digging, and what they found was a brilliant, highly controversial loophole in the new engine rules. To understand what Mercedes did, we have to look at the 2026 engine regulations. One of the biggest changes the FIA made for this new era was reducing the maximum compression ratio of the internal combustion engine. Under the old rules, teams could run a compression ratio of 18:1. For 2026, to limit power and attract new manufacturers, the FIA dropped that limit down to 16:1. But here is where the wording of the rulebook becomes incredibly important. The regulations stated that this 16:1 compression ratio had to be measured at ambient temperature. That means the FIA checks the engine when it is cold and sitting in the garage. Mercedes looked at that rule and realized something very clever. They knew that when an engine is actually running on track, it gets incredibly hot. And when metal gets hot, it expands. This is called thermal expansion. Usually, when an engine heats up, the engine block expands more than the connecting rods, which actually causes the compression ratio to drop slightly. A normal engine that measures 16:1 in the garage might drop to 15.2:1 when it is racing. But Mercedes reportedly designed their engine components using specific materials with unique thermal expansion properties. Instead of losing compression when the engine got hot, their engine expanded in a way that actually increased the compression ratio. So, they would pass the FIA's cold test in the garage at a perfectly legal 16:1. But out on the track, under racing conditions, their compression ratio would climb back up, reportedly getting very close to the old 18:1 limit. This is a massive advantage. A higher compression ratio means more power and better efficiency. Estimates in the paddock suggest this trick was giving Mercedes an extra 10 to 13 horsepower, which translates to about 2 or 3/10 of a second per lap. When the other teams figured out what was happening over the winter, the paddock erupted. Ferrari, Honda, and Audi all lobbied the FIA, arguing that this went completely against the spirit of the rules. They demanded that the loophole be closed immediately before the season even started in Australia. The politics behind the scenes were intense. There were secret letters sent to the governing body, heated discussions in the Power Unit Advisory Committee, and a massive push to get a hot test introduced as quickly as possible. Interestingly, Red Bull's position on this was a bit murky at first. Early in the year, there were rumours that Red Bull powertrains might have figured out a similar trick, or at least something in the same ballpark. But as the season progressed and Mercedes started winning every single race, Red Bull firmly joined the opposition, creating a supermajority of teams demanding a rule change. At first, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff brushed the whole thing off. He called the drama a storm in a teacup and claimed the advantage was negligible, maybe only worth 2 or 3 horsepower. He argued that Mercedes was just being a good citizen by agreeing to the rule change, because it supposedly did not matter to their overall performance. But Max Verstappen was absolutely not buying it. During pre-season testing, when asked about Wolff's claim that it was only a 3 horsepower difference, Verstappen laughed it off. He told the media, "You definitely have to add a 0 to that, and maybe even more." And when you look at the stopwatch, it is hard to argue with the Dutchman. A 3 horsepower advantage does not give you a half-second gap to the rest of the grid. The pressure on the FIA was immense, and eventually they had to act. In late February, they announced a compromise. They changed the testing procedure. Starting from June 1st, 2026, the FIA will no longer just test the engines when they are cold. They will also test them when they are hot, specifically at an operating temperature of 130 degrees Celsius. If an engine exceeds the 16:1 ratio when it is hot, it is illegal. This brings us to the Monaco Grand Prix. Because the rule change goes into effect on June 1st, Monaco will be the very first race where Mercedes is forced to run without their compression ratio trick. They will have to tune their engines to ensure they stay at or below 16:1, even when fully heated up. So, the big question is, will this actually stop Mercedes from dominating? The truth is, nobody really knows for sure, and the teams themselves are trying to manage expectations. Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur has been very vocal about this. He told the media that he is not convinced the new rule will be a huge game changer. He pointed out that Mercedes' advantage is not just about pure internal combustion engine power. They have a great chassis, excellent electrical energy management, and they are simply doing a better job across the board. Ferrari can hang with Mercedes for the first 10 laps of a stint by using extra electrical boost, but once that energy is depleted, Mercedes pulls away by 4 or 5 tenths a lap. Vasseur is actually looking further down the calendar for Ferrari's real chance to catch up. He is banking on something called the ADUO, the Additional Development and Upgrade Opportunities. This is a system built into the 2026 rules to prevent one engine manufacturer from running away with the championship. After certain races, the FIA evaluates the power units. If a manufacturer is between 2 and 4% down on power compared to the best engine, they get an extra upgrade allowance. If they are more than 4% down, they get 2. The first of these evaluations is scheduled to happen right after the Monaco Grand Prix. So for Ferrari, the compression ratio ban is nice, but the ADUO upgrades are what they really need to close the gap. Plus, we have to talk about the track itself. Monaco is the least power-sensitive circuit on the entire Formula One calendar. It is all about low-speed corners, mechanical grip, traction, and driver confidence. You do not need the most powerful engine to win in Monte Carlo. You need a car that rotates well and a driver willing to brush the barriers. Even if Mercedes loses 2 or 3 tenths of a second of pure engine performance, it might not show up on the stopwatch in the streets of Monaco. If they are going to be exposed, it is much more likely to happen at the following races in Barcelona or Austria, where aerodynamic efficiency and straight-line speed are much more critical. But there is another layer to this story. The compression ratio loophole is not the only trick Mercedes has lost recently. Back in April, the FIA also banned a special qualifying mode that Mercedes and Red Bull were using. They had found a way to shut down the MGU-K at the very end of a qualifying lap, which allowed them to bypass the normal energy deployment limits and get a massive 50 to 100 kilowatt power boost right before crossing the finish line. The FIA banned that trick on safety grounds after several drivers, including Kimi Antonelli and Max Verstappen, almost stopped on track during practice in Japan because their batteries were completely drained. So, piece by piece, the FIA is chipping away at the clever tricks that have kept Mercedes so far ahead of the pack. They have lost their qualifying deployment trick, and now, heading into Monaco, they are losing their compression ratio advantage. Will it be enough for Ferrari or McLaren to finally challenge them for a win on pure pace? Or will George Russell and Kimi Antonelli just keep marching toward the championship? We will get our first real answer in the streets of Monaco. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Mercedes is about to fall back to the pack, or are they just too far ahead to catch? I read as many comments as I can, and I love hearing your takes on the technical side of the sport. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We cover all the biggest technical battles and paddock politics every single week. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.